Hey, happy Independence Day. This is Doug. Did I say that right? I have the crew recognizable. You will recognize these guys from last year. And we're going to do this every year until we're either...
Was it Independence Day last time we were on?
Uh-huh.
I didn't even realize.
It was, man. It was a year ago. We got together and did our first annual, and we are doing now our second annual 4th of July Independence Day celebration podcast episode.
America.
All right.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
absolutely. And if you're watching on the big screen, you recognize these guys. If you're just listening, Aaro Cerrone, Chris Bryant, two friends of mine, two gentlemen who have served and continue to serve. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about what that means to be a servant, what that means to, the military experience. I had some guy ask me today, I was at the 7-Eleven getting like a cold drink or something. Are you a cop? I said, well, why would you ask me that? Do I look like a cop? He goes, well, you're standing up pretty straight. I was like, well, that's just because my back hurts when I slouch.
Yeah.
But so
it's because I was raised right. Sorry.
Yeah, well, make eye contact and have a firm handshake, But so the celebration of independence, the 4th of July. I've got some trivia. You're looking at the trivia.
Oh,
Don't look at the trivia.
I honestly was not even looking at it. I was just kind of.
I started with trivia last year, and so we're going to start every year with trivia.
Omaha.
Every Independence Day, how many times does the Liberty Bell ring?
Whoa.
And it
the
makes
original
sense.
Liberty Bell?
Well, that's what this said. It said and I don't even know if this is true. I didn't fact check any of this,
I've seen the original Liberty Bell, and
it's got a big crack in it, as I understand it.
It's a static display. I'm not sure. Do they actually ring it?
Well, okay.
It's got a crack in it.
You're messing up the question. Just
zero.
Pretend. No, that's not it. No.
It doesn't work anymore.
So, no. They claim that they are ringing a Liberty Bell. Maybe it is just a knockoff, but there is a reason for the number. Think
One year for every year that we've been an independent nation.
No, that's a great guess.
Damn.
No.
We'll go 13 for the colonies.
It is 13 for the colonies. That's exactly. It is a significant number.
Yeah.
So apparently they ring the Liberty Bell 13 times on Independence Day.
That was just a guess.
But there are just a certain number of significant.
I'd like to go to that one year.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be nice.
That'd be very
I do want to
cool.
spend the 4th in Boston one year. I
That'd
really
be
do.
cool.
The Cradle
and where's
of
the
Liberty.
bell? Is that in Philly?
Philadelphia. It's in
Yeah, the
Philadelphia,
Bill.
Boston would be cool.
Yeah, I want to do a 4th in Boston. See
Absolutely.
the Constitution out on the water and just kind of really, that's the cradle of liberty for America's Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Then, obviously Philadelphia and how important it was with Independence Hall and Liberty Bell and all that.
I took my sons to D.C. back before it became the place that it is. I was gonna, I'm trying not to make this, and we had a great time. It was great. Washington D.C. was just alive with energy, and we went to all the Smithsonian Institutes, and we went to the different museums, and we went to see the Constitution to look at those documents, and they basically herd you in, and it's just a moving procession. You don't get to stop and stand and look at it and study it as you had hoped. You literally walk by in a pack that you can't stop the momentum of the pack, and then you just glance over and hope to catch a glimpse of it.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed by that. You don't get the chance to actually be in its presence.
I get it, but I don't get it. Just the number of people are trying to get there.
They're just
and my
pushing a lot of
understanding
people
is
through.
it's deteriorating due to the light. Like it's in like a glass. It's in like a green glass and a special gas inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they only let it out. It sounds terrible.
Let it out. Like
You know what I mean? They only expose it to light for a certain number of hours a day because the light is deteriorating.
I think it is,
parchment
man.
or whatever paper that it was written on.
I think it is. I think, and those things are not, they're not permanent. They're eventually going to deteriorate, unfortunately. Hopefully somebody wrote it down.
Yeah. I will say I went to DC my senior year in college. We went down there. A bunch of us hopped in a car just on a weekend trip. And I will say those monuments are nothing short of impressive.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I think the Jefferson Memorial is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But you get up there and you're like, wow, okay, that's impressive. And it's,
they are impressive.
Yeah, and you go to the Vietnam War Memorial and it's impressive. Like it's something that it should be on a bucket list. You should go.
Without question. It's unfortunate that the city itself is
Well, and then,
difficult.
you started getting into the controversy around the monuments and who the people were and all that jazz. But, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, yeah, we're such a young country.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have impressively old buildings. We don't have castles and things like that. And, so those monuments are pretty impressive at the end of the day.
I like the Korean one. You actually, when you're standing there and the soldiers are walking, the scenery is them walking through some.
That one's fairly new, isn't it?
It's relatively new.
I don't think that was built when I went down there.
But when you're there, you feel like you're walking with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because it is a troop or a company of guys.
A company or a platoon of folks kind of walking through a bush area or maybe even a rice paddy type thing. I don't know, whatever. They're walking through it, and it's so realistic when you're there.
And they're life size figures, maybe even a little larger than life size.
And the other one that just blows me away is the World War II. The massive complex with all the different states, the big pillars that are around. The World War II one is really big, I believe.
And it deserves to be big.
It does.
Yeah.
And I think Bob Dole may have had a big part in getting that. There's a lot key players in Washington at the time that really got that massive project done. It's super impressive.
I agree.
And then obviously Arlington. We can't forget about Arlington too, across the river. So.
And you go watch the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown and watching that. And we were there watching, and it's very solemn and very dignified. And then I hear
there's always some
asshole over there like taking pictures or saying something, and the guard stopped the procession and dressed that person down, man.
And they should.
The spectator will remain silent during, or whatever. And man, we were all like, oh shit. Guys carrying, was as of course people do. Okay.
So speaking of trivia, I'll give you some trivia. So you were at the Korean War Memorial.
Yeah.
Do you know what's unique about the Korean War?
That it's still going on.
It's never been ended.
It's never been ended.
Really?
It technically has never been ended. There was a ceasefire, and that was it.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that. Interesting. The enemy is among us.
Well, I think it's just
from a legal standpoint, it's never ended.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's never been an end to it. There's never been a surrender or anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I did not know that. It's interesting.
It's still under, I think, technically a ceasefire. That's why there's that DMZ sitting there, and
they're just squared off at
and
each
they're just
other
staring
all
at
the
each
time.
other.
We'll
taking shots.
We agree to disagree, and we're just gonna hang tight for now.
Hey, as long as it's
50
peaceful,
years later,
man.
70
you
years
stare
later.
at each other all you want. I don't care. Let's just keep it peaceful, man.
Keep it peaceful. All right. Question number 2: which president was born on July 4th?
Whoa.
Recent or older?
Older.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I couldn't even venture to guess.
I'm gonna take a guess.
You got like 46 chances.
I'm gonna say Grant.
That's a good guess. It is not. Calvin Coolidge.
Coolidge
Was born July 4th, 1872.
Wow.
Calvin Coolidge. I don't know what he did. I'm not a student of.
I think that's the beauty of his presidency, is that he didn't do a lot.
He didn't do anything really stupid.
Let's just keep going on and going on.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's always been issues here in this great land.
Well, that was certainly,
But I don't think he really did a lot, and that's why people are like, "Hey, good job, man."
Yeah.
We didn't try to reinvent the world.
He must have been president in the early 1900s if he was born in 1872 or mid.
I will plead and admit to ignorance when it comes to, there's those people that can name their presidents right in order, and I couldn't do it.
No, I
saved my life.
I can name maybe the last few and the first few and a couple in between.
I don't remember the last.
But
few.
I think the ones who came after him made up for the lack of him doing anything, especially with the creation of the Federal Reserve and launching into World War I.
Oh yes.
Wilson. There's a lot of people in America that look very negatively upon that time period where we became the central bank of the Federal Reserve, started trying to be the police of the world at that moment. So a lot changed then. So maybe that's why they like Coolidge.
Maybe.
It was probably the last peaceful guy we may have had. I don't know, but it didn't take long after that.
All right,
we became the world policeman. So
here's my last trivia question.
Okay.
This one probably is the one I was the most likely to actually get correct. On the 4th, what food is most commonly consumed
Hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
I'm going with the
Bingo.
hot dogs. too.
Hot dogs
Hot
it
dogs.
is.
Don't we have the hot
Absolutely.
dog eating championship?
Oh,
that's coming
yes.
up?
It has on for
That's on the 4th.
On the
isn't it?
4th of July. It's Joey Chestnut,
Nathan's,
right?
Yeah, Nathan's.
Shoving 96 hot dogs in his
It's
mouth.
insane to me.
It's just
A minute?
painful to watch that to me. It's
It
just
is painful.
I'm like,
So
man.
let's all tune in.
So let's all watch this pain.
Well, let's start off by talking a little bit about service. In all seriousness, I know that both of you guys have served and continue to serve in a number of different ways. The way you've chosen to live your lives, and I'd like to hear just a little bit about service and why you perhaps chose military service, and
Yeah.
how you came to that. Was that a family business? Is it just a calling that you felt? Was it a job opportunity? I mean, I'd be interested in just hearing a little bit about it. You don't have to get into great detail, but just something about why. And then I know personally that both of you continue to serve. And so, there must be something about your character or the way you were raised or something, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a clean answer to it. I think a lot of people that enter the military. Now, there are some people who enter the military specifically for career, specifically to get college paid for, and I understand that. But I think those who enter to serve or feel that calling to serve probably couldn't really pinpoint why. It's just something that you kind of feel like you need to do and want to do. I grew up. My parents were older. My dad was the youngest of 6, so all of my aunts and uncles were much older. But that was a generation where when you graduated high school, everybody just went in. Everybody did their 2-3-year hitch, went in. So I had an uncle that was in the Army, one was Navy, one was Air Force. So that was just kind of what you did. Everybody graduate, you went and served, and then came back and got a job.
Yeah.
Right? This kind of was just
And this is
the
Pennsylvania.
routine. Yeah, it's Pennsylvania. Blue collar Pennsylvania. And that was just kind of the norm. Almost everybody did a hitch, right? Did a hitch, and which is funny because we had an American Legion in our town and never had a membership problem, right? Because everybody served to some degree at some point. And of course, as my generation came along and college became more the push and more the norm, fewer and fewer people started
going
serving.
directly.
Going directly in, or at least doing a little bit of time. For me, I don't know. I think it was just an extension when you grow up doing team sports and you always kind of got like this team first mentality. And, that to me, that's just kind of an extension of it. I was never one to want to take accolades for myself. To this day, if you go to my gym, you don't see my name anywhere or on any of the stuff like that, which is from biz perspective was probably a bad thing. Right. But that was just kind of how I was raised. It was team first, and you put the team before yourself. You did what you needed for the team to win, and the military just is a natural extension of that. And that's kind of the way I look at it. And and I don't know what to say is even within the military now, you think you take the approach of if you just fall in line, do what you're told, and work hard, and your talent will be recognized, and don't worry about taking credit. And of course, from a career perspective, that's not how you make it. That's not how you make your way up and make your way up the company ladder and whatnot. So there's that dichotomy. I think that people who are called to service suffer in a way from the career accolades and the movement up the company ladder, because you just naturally, I think, don't take credit for stuff. You just naturally because
you're not there for the credit.
This, right? We did this, so you're part of the team. It was a team effort. You said that and the other thing. So I think, people that truly serve, when you ask them why, I would bet they probably don't have a clean answer as to why.
Well, there's a lot to unpack what Aaron just said there, and I actually love it. I love the team concept of it. I believe, being a team player in sports growing up certainly was a factor that said, I'll be a good fit in the military because of that teammanship. Oh, that was one of it. The other one is this call to serve that he just mentioned, and that's a big one there. I believe some of us, I don't know what happens. It could just be a revelation that happens in your life, but you feel like, I should give back. Some people say, I want to give back and I want to be a school teacher. I want to help kids to help them with their education. Some people want to give back and serve this country because of all these wonderful privileges that we've had growing up here and continue to have in some aspects. But I was just grateful for being an American. I was grateful to grow up in a land of liberty, and I wanted to eventually give back. And also I wanted to get something from the military too, not college education money, but I wanted to mature. I wanted to learn leadership. I wanted to learn how to function in a tight unit. All these things that I think that would help me in my my occupational world once I'm done with it. But I'll be honest with you, man. In high school, when they came in and asked us to take the ASVAB, I was like laughed at the dude. I'm like, dude, man, I'm the last guy you're gonna have in there. Look at my hair, dude. You know. And so, lo and behold, 2 years later, I'm at the MEP station and I'm signing up, man. And it was a big moment in life.
Yeah.
It's a big moment.
A
Like having
life-changing.
children. Oh, well, the thing is, it's that service that Aaron just talked about. What you're doing when you go into the military is this. You are putting your dreams and aspirations on hold so other people in this country can live theirs.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're doing.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal, man. You are a selfless servant. You're giving up your hopes and dreams to be some big giant lawyer or some YouTube star or whatever you want to do. But you put that on hold because you're not going to stand out in the military. You're going to be part of this unit and an integral spoke in that wheel.
Right.
And then you get to shine by being a compliant person, following your orders, giving back to the community. I know all the military expects you to volunteer wherever you're stationed. You're just not just going to come here and serve your country. You're going to come serve your community too.
Right.
And so they want you to be a volunteer firefighter or do something that helps out in the community. And so I just think the military service is, well, I don't want to say it should be compulsory.
I was going to ask that. Should it be compulsory? I mean, I wonder sometimes.
I've gone back and forth on this over the decades.
Yeah, me too.
I've gone back and forth on it.
I got friends from other countries where there's mandatory military service, and I see the benefits of that. I think to Chris's point, 18 years old, you don't know your butt from a hole in the ground. And I think a couple of years of service would do a lot of people a lot of good, and you come out and you're 20, 21, you can still go to college. Even kids, me working at the university, people ask me about college and I'll be like, just go to Metro for your, see if you're even built for college. And I think the military would do a lot for a lot of maturing,
absolutely,
figuring out what you want in life, give you some perspective, get out of your house, get out of your circle of friends and go see some different things, get around different people. One thing the military did for me, I grew up small town Pennsylvania, and you're very insulated when you grow up in a small town, especially in the 70s and 80s when there was no internet, no cell phones. So outside of your town, you really didn't know what the hell is going on in the world. And I go out to the academy and I'm meeting kids from all different states. I'm just like, what? You feel like an idiot because you're just like, man, I didn't know this was out here.
Yeah.
And
California is just a rumor.
Geez, so
in Pennsylvania.
So I think if there's one thing the military does, it exposes you to the world and exposes you to a structured, disciplined environment that helps you mature and grow up, and then you can figure out your career aspirations and goals after that.
Where, I don't mean to interrupt you, but where have you been? Where did the military take you, good and bad? I mean, what kind of? Because I've been to Kansas, Missouri. Did you get any farther than that?
I was in a very high deployment squadron. So I was Asia, Pacific Rim, Europe, Middle East, Africa.
Really?
Yeah. All over the place.
And you saw you were below the water in all of those places.
I got to see what was underneath everything.
Right.
You go to Manhattan, you enjoy downtown New York, Manhattan. I'm like, I get to go and dive underneath all the lower end and look under all those piers because we got some VIP from a country that's visiting, and the Secret Service doesn't have their own bomb techs, so they use the 4 branches of the military, and they hire them or dispatch them out to do the security sweeps and all that before the dignitary shows up. But man, I've been a lot of places. And it's not just my military time though. It's all that time with the Corps of Engineers, and all the environmental remediation and safety work that's going on there. I've been in 49 states. For each of those 49, I spent at least a week in each state. So, in 12 countries. Now, out of that, I probably had the most fun in Germany. I had a lot of fun in Germany. I don't want to talk about the details of that, but I had a lot of fun in Germany.
They know how to do a festival. They know how to do a festival.
Yeah.
And I went to Manchester, England for a while during the holidays, and to really see them. the old market with the Christmas caroling where people
Mhm.
just kind of goes to the town square. I thought it was just very old school and
Mhm.
Christmassy.
And fantastic.
And I was like,
yeah.
man, we don't do anything like this. We have a
Mhm.
parade and it's all commercialism in
Sure.
stores, and it's
Mhm.
just a completely different realm. So I got to see the world, and
That's
that was
cool.
great. It made me worldly in a degree.
Right.
But I'm
Because you're
still-
also a small town guy.
I'm a small town
Louisiana.
guy, 2,000-3,000 people.
Yeah.
Across the river was a town of about 25, but just rural America. But ultimately, I learned a lot. I grew up a lot in maturity.
Yeah.
Maturity is what I got the most out of it.
Mhm.
But a sense of service to say, there's a lot of privileges and freedoms that are bestowed upon us and given to us, depending on which one you're talking about, rights or privileges. But either way, and I'm thankful for that.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful to grow up in the land of liberty. And I'm proud to be an American. I'm not too happy with our government and the people that are at the positions of power within it,
Yeah.
and the things they do, regardless of party.
Regardless.
Of party. This is not a politics thing. This is a
Mhm.
societal issue
Mhm.
we have right now. And I believe that most of the people in this country feel that there may not be as many privileges and that used to enjoy back, say, 40, 50 years ago. And
Yeah.
so I think that weighs on people. I think everybody just seems tired. We're working ourselves really hard. Our employers are having a hard time finding folks, and it's got to get people reinvigorated. We
Mhm.
need to get fired up and be proud of who we are.
Totally.
And let's unite together. And those days are just, I pray for them. I
Mhm.
really do.
Chris, you just said something, be proud of who we are. Traveling the world, when I hear people get talking about the United States and pissing and moaning and bitching about this and bitching about that, I always go, you've clearly never left. Because when you
Mhm.
travel the world and you get to other countries, you quickly realize, okay, I understand what we have here now. And I understand, to your point, the rights, the privileges, the freedoms, the opportunities. But I will say this, when I noticed, regardless of what country I went to, and it's a good handful, and you get out and you start, for lack of a better term, meeting with the locals and interacting, and being a teacher as well. I got to talk to a lot of exchange students as well, and the pride they have in their country is amazing compared to Americans.
Yeah.
It's night and day, regardless of how bad their living situation is. They're so proud of their heritage, of their country, and their culture. And I think that's one thing we've lost and we're losing, which I find more frightening than anything. The whole idea of proud to be an American, I think, has waned tremendously, and I see that in the military as well.
Oh, wow. I've been out a long time.
So,
man. You've been around them a lot more.
The military, the person in the military right now, you got to understand, we have a generation now that's been coming into the military for the last 15, 20 years. And if you think about the last few generations, my parents' generation, our parents' generation, the boomers, it was, service before self. But now you have some generations coming in that are self before service, the very me-centric generation. I'm broad brushing here, right?
Sure.
I'm not pigeonholing all of them. But you see that. You see that in the military. You made a comment, when you sign up to serve, you're putting your life and your aspirations on hold. Not so much anymore.
Oh.
Right. It's still, I'm still want to do my own thing. I'm serving, but I still want to do my own thing. I'm still have my career aspirations. I'm still making moves about me.
Is this a reduction, Aaron, in loyalty, a reduction in commitment? Where's the fall off? What's the word to describe where we're falling off here?
I think we, as a society, we have a massive accountability problem right now.
Okay.
Massive.
Here we go.
Mhm.
And I see that in the military. I see how the military is being run. I see, the type of people in the military. I'm not saying it's gone to hell in a handbasket, but you see the change. I'm 27 and some change years now, so I've got almost 30 years of perspective on what it was like when and it's not always harder when I was in. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the culture and the dynamic and expectations is what I'm talking about. And you can see the difference. You can definitely see the difference, and I think that's just a mimic. A reflection of society in itself.
Well, think about
even at the academies now. I went back for my 25th reunion a few years back, and I kind of walked around going, what is this place?
Yeah. Well,
You know,
yeah. Well, think about it as far as this drop off that may be occurring. Think about this generation that you just mentioned that's
Mhm.
entering the service.
I'm just saying, and
And-
don't get me wrong, I'm not dogging on the
But
generation.
what has
There's not a
happened-
bad generation.
Well, what's
right? It just
happened
is
in their
what it is.
lifetime to make them really pro-America? What has happened in this group that's coming in that's made them? When I grew up, there were a few significant things that happened that really made me patriotic. Number one, the 200th anniversary of this country, 1976.
Mhm.
I mean, you couldn't go anywhere or see a product on the shelf that wasn't red, white, and blue
Mhm.
that year.
I remember.
The bicentennial was a massive thing, and I was 8. It was very impressionable.
Mhm.
And then, wow, not too long after that, 4 years later, we had this rallying of the country over this Olympic team that beat the Russians in hockey.
Mhm.
That was a big deal, man.
Still.
When the whole country rallied together.
Yeah, I remember
We had this
that
guy
too.
named Bruce Jenner back in the day. He was everybody's hero.
On
He
the
was like
Wheaties
the
box.
greatest.
Yeah.
Greatest.
Oh, yeah.
He was on the Wheaties box. I mean, these
most
are
legendary Wheaties,
iconic
yeah.
figures that really showed Americanism.
Mhm.
What has this generation had
Well,
since
I
9/11?
think it's
Since 9/11.
it's
Nothing.
almost
Nothing.
it's almost I don't want to say passe, but it's cool to be un-American. It almost feels like, right? It's very en vogue to be un-American right now in a lot of cases. You know, like how many people do you see? Again, right to free speech, right to assemble, right to express yourself however you want. But growing up, how many people did you hear of kneeling for the national anthem?
Oh my, none.
I never even heard of it.
No.
Mhm. It
But
didn't
now it's
exist.
a regular thing.
Sure.
Now, your ability to protest, I get it.
Yeah.
But this is like there's a time and a place for everything. I never heard of it growing up. I never even the thought never even crossed my mind. Once in a while, you heard of a flag burning, but that was by far the exception than the rule. But it's almost commonplace now for people not to stand for a national anthem, to kneel during it.
Yeah.
You know, and what makes me laugh is you're protesting the symbol of the very thing that allows you to protest, which that blows my mind to begin with. So it's a lack of perspective there. But I would never take that ability away from somebody.
Sure.
But I'm confused by it because it's like you understand what you're protesting, right?
Yeah.
You're protesting the symbol, the very thing that's giving you the freedom and the opportunity to do that. Okay. Hey, you want to protest the police? Fine. Go stand out in front and do whatever you want to do of the police department and this, that, and the other thing. But when you start protesting the flag, I think you're losing perspective on what's allowing you to do that and what went into allowing that, right? And yeah, sure, you can get into the military industrial complex and maybe the United States is meddling in places it shouldn't be, but it is what it is. Like we have the rights, the freedoms, and the opportunities, large in part of where we are geographically located and the fact that our military is what it is. And it allows us to safe keep and guard those things, right?
Yeah.
The world, I mean, think about the world if we had not gotten involved in World War II. I mean, think about that for half a second and you're going to go, oh, okay. And if you don't understand that perspective, then you really need to read up a little bit. You really need to understand your history and understand what was happening at the time and the goals of some of those other leaders at the time, what they wanted to do. And had we not stepped up, you know, we'd be maybe living in a much different world right now.
Right.
That's an interesting concept. And we were talking about history before we even started, and you brought some reading and some books that you're fond of that you think are useful. I don't know that people really understand history very well anymore, or if it's even,
I don't think they care
if they even have access to
because it doesn't
history.
support a current narrative.
It's not on the narrative.
What they want to believe.
It's what they're fed.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to feed yourself.
Right.
And so obviously the books, I'm very, very picky about what I read. I want to make sure that I'm reading something that hasn't been censored and filtered. And I thought that
or less than 1,000 pages. Jesus.
This is probably one of the best comprehensive history books of this country that, as a matter of fact, I believe, and I didn't listen to this guy often, but I believe this was a source book for Rush Limbaugh when he was alive.
Is there a
He talks
podcast
about
for these? Is anybody doing this? I know that there are history podcasts.
Yeah,
that
there's I listened to.
Yeah, is there a movie?
I need the movie.
It's what is it? Wall builders. They typically wallbuilders.com.
Okay.
They typically stick closely to patriotism and faith that founded this country. And so this actually came from that website. One of their authors. Great stories in here. Great stories. One of the ones right off the bat is even before we were a country, the Spanish were down in the Caribbean and they were enslaving the South Americans and Caribbeans. And there was a priest who basically stuck his neck out on the line and scolded the entire unit and everybody that was there that what they were doing was evil. And so these are some great stories about even as settling this great land from Western Europeans. We've got some ugliness about it too. And this book kind of calls out where we weren't being we were lawless. We were the country was lawless, or at least some people were lawless, and they certainly were unrighteous. And so these two books are probably two of my favorites right here. Now, in regards to what Aaron was talking about, if you're not happy, you think things can change. Well, we see a lot of destruction over the last, say, decade. We've seen a lot of rioting. We've seen a lot of protesting that gets ugly and stuff. But I would say, if you're not happy with what's going on in the world, or especially in our country, well, what are you going to do about it? And this might be a good read for you. It's one of America's more famous authors, Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience. This is a nonviolent way to get people's attention that put in charge. And you might want to take a look at that. He was actually put in jail because he refused to pay for the War of 1812. He says, I'm not paying taxes for murdering of other people. It's ungodly. And so they locked him up in prison. One of America's greatest authors locked up in prison because he refused to pay the taxes on murdering other people. And so there's been some historical record out there that if we could just get off of our cell phones at Angry Birds and pick up some good books, then I think we might be better stewards and citizens.
Oh, no doubt.
I agree, 100%. And I think, Doug brought up history that, by no means are we a perfect country, nor will we ever be. We're still, in the grand scheme of it, we're a very young country. Right. Barely, not even 250 years old. Like, we're not. When you think of other nations been around for thousands and tens of thousands of years, we're a very young country. And yeah, we have a dark past. We do. Now, let's understand, it's not near as dark as some other countries. And we corrected course really quick when you think about it. If you think about from the time we became a nation, 1776, to when we abolished slavery, we did that within 100 years. That's nothing short of mind-blowing when you think of the grand scheme of how long nations have been around. And then the civil rights movement within the next 100 years. I mean, it is mind-blowing what we've done as a country, and we forget that. And I think we forget that, and things like this can remind us of that. And I tell other people too, when you say, what are you going to do about it? Go somewhere else for a while.
That's a good one.
And then you're going to realize the United States is pretty freaking good. I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as an American immigrant. You don't see lines of Americans trying to get in any other country.
That's a good point.
But there are lines of people trying to come here for good reason. Right? From all countries for good reason. You never see a mass exodus of Americans going anywhere else, but you see it from other countries coming here. Why? If it's that bad, why? Why is it that this always makes me angry, but it makes me laugh, is why is it Americans are always pissing and moaning about how bad it is, yet people are beating down the door to get in from other places? Maybe you should go to those other places and check it out.
And I think
to give you some perspective.
Your point is well taken. I think the fact that the country is young, relatively young, the course corrections that have been made, we live, we evaluate, we make realizations, we make changes, but it seems that people that are very critical of the country seem to either not appreciate that.
There's no perspective,
or understand that.
And I'll give you an example.
And the challenges of
I'll give you an example. I've had students who were Kenyan, right? We're not African American, which they hate that term, by the way.
I know, they do.
They absolutely hate it, right? Kenyan, right? Immigrated here, became U.S. citizens. Another student of mine was Chinese. born in China, wasn't actually supposed to be born because of the rules for number of births. So that he was born and he was hidden in the mountains with his grandmother and where he grew up. Came here, right, as an exchange student. And you talk to them, and I've had honest conversations with them, right? And I'll talk about racism and poverties, and they just shake their head like, they're like, you freaking Americans don't understand poverty and don't understand racism.
Right.
You just don't understand it. Like the racism and poverty we talk about is so far on the side of the scale compared to other places.
What they've
It's nothing
experienced.
short of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. You know, my friend Lee and I was talking about the poverty gap, and he goes, he just laughs. He goes, Aaron, what are you talking about? He goes, there's no poor people in America. He goes, poor people have phones here.
Right. Yeah, how poor are you?
I was like, what are you talking about? And he goes, you want to see poor? I'll show you people. He goes, I'll show you people living on dirt floors, starving to death.
Yeah.
Because of the government, and then, I had friends from Kenya and other African nations where they'll just be like, they're like, people talk about not being able to walk down the street here. And he goes, it's so ridiculous. He goes, I'll take you to a place where you can't walk down the street.
Yeah.
Without fear of being killed, or you're worried about the neighboring tribe or the warlord coming over and killing everybody and raping everybody, like that, where it's real.
And it happens daily.
And they're
Still
like,
happening.
they're like,
Still
America
happening.
is so skewed in perspective. Now, again, to my point earlier, are we perfect? Do we have stuff to work on? Absolutely. And should we ride our leaders like there's no tomorrow to make the place better? Yes, we should. But I think we need to have some understanding of what is bad, right?
That raises an interesting question to me. How do we ride our leaders to make change? It seems, I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it. Like Chris mentioned earlier, I look at both parties and I feel like, we have established this political elite group.
Term limits.
Yeah, it seems obviously term limits and maybe voluntary service, or certainly you shouldn't be able to go into public service to get rich. I mean, that shouldn't be the motivation possible necessarily.
I think
But
term
Are
limits
term limits
and
even
minimum wage for elected officials.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe it is not a richness making enterprise. It is a service enterprise.
It's supposed to be.
That's
It's
what it was
supposed
written to be,
wasn't it?
That's what it was written to be.
But
The founding fathers never had an intention for
This
career
permanent
politicians.
elite class.
Career politicians. It was never the intention. It was you would go represent and come back and go back to work.
Yeah.
How will that ever happen? Is it within our power as the huddled masses to move this? It has to be voted on by the
I think the only way is
politicians,
if
right? I mean,
you get a president that's been elected and then will push the issue once in office. We'll push a term limit issue. We'll push a change in just because for example, you serve one term, you get pension for life. You got to take away the monetary incentive. You got to get the money out of it at the end of the day. And because of that, and don't get me wrong, not all politicians are bad. I don't trust any of them because I feel the majority of them don't truly represent their constituents.
And why is that? What's the root cause of what's happening in DC?
The money.
Money. It's all about the currency. It's all about the money. It's all about wealth. It's all about standard of living. And they have found a way. I always said in classes, says, what's the quickest way to wealth in America? It ain't inventing an app or winning the lotto. It's get elected. Get elected. I don't care what you get elected for. You're in the system now. You're in the pipeline. And as long as you follow your marching orders, we'll keep your money flowing. Then you can go and buy your next election from funding.
Sure.
It's all about the money. This whole concept of currency has led to some massive issues around this planet through its entire history because of the power of it. And I don't know how to break that. I do things around my hometown and I do it for bartering. No one exchanging money. Every time we exchange money, then somebody is going to have their hand out in that piece of the pie. But if I'm trading you 5 chickens for all the sweet corn I'll need for the year, that's how I do business. I take the government out of the equation. I try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you see
But
it
they
everywhere.
can't maintain a living that way. And that's the
Right.
problem. How do we get out of this maintain a living?
That's
How's this going to change, Doug? I think it's going to take an act of God.
Yeah.
And I hope that act of God isn't a thermonuclear war or a
Right.
famine or some kind of pandemic. I don't know.
Complete
But
crash of the economy.
when you got
Yeah.
8 billion people on the planet, that's a hard redo.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to redo.
That is.
And these systems are anchored and entrenched. And I prescribe to a philosophy called non-compliance. I don't comply with lots of edicts.
Mm-hmm.
And so my congregation says, Chris, you are a resistor. I said, you daggone right I am. I'm a resistor of all these man-made things. I look toward the heavens for things to steer me in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And get out of the secular world as much as I can. That's why that property is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Life, liberty, and property. That's exactly what it said at the beginning. We changed it. But here's how it works. God created man. Man creates society. Society creates governments.
Government, sure.
And governments create nations. You take that list, flip it upside down. That's our priority list. Nation, your country, fly your flag. It takes precedence on the stage, even over God's flag, according to our code. So we've put nation, government, society, individual liberty, and God in that order.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be the other way around. God, individual liberty, making up a good free society who creates a government at the will of people, and then they have a nation. We have flipped this, and it is destroying us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for individuals to be able to do that, to, try to live and exist without those constraints, certainly the financial, monetary constraints, is really
Hard, man.
It's tough.
challenging.
You're committed to the rat race, and it's tough to get out of it.
Challenging, yeah.
It's tough to get out of it. And
It's tough to get out.
I find the older I get, you always say the older you get, the more crotchety you get. But but I find myself, to Chris's point, the older I get, I find myself saying, I'm not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
More and more all the time. I'm just not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
And why I do that, I don't know. It's because I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of. It's not so much complying. It's just so much of just mindlessly doing things because I was told to, or because,
right.
That's been the way. And like, okay, well, why? Why does it have to be like that? And
Thank
then
you.
you start making decisions based on more what you feel is right and what you feel is truth. Doug, to answer your question, how to fix it. I agree with Chris. It's going to take something almost catastrophic. Unfortunately,
that's what I'm afraid of too.
You can say you can make change with your vote, but for the first time in my life, and it's kind of scary to me, like the United States of all places, right? Of all places, right? Where we have a freely elected government. For the first time, I'm really questioning that, and that.
Mm-hmm. That's the
whatever
right?
side of the political spectrum you're on, that should scare the living shit out of everybody, to include the entire world.
Yeah.
That if the United States' elections are not free elections, and it's getting harder and harder for me to believe at least there's not some play in that, or there's some tampering in that. And to Chris's point, it's because we've structured this in a way where it's so controlling and so powerful now that even our vote can't change it,
right,
or fix it. So how does that happen? And I don't know.
I lost confidence in my vote in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I just, when Obama got elected, I was like, okay, well, let's see what a new person can
What
do
he can
here.
do,
Let's
yeah.
see what he can do. But boy, after 4 years of just reading about the entire country complaining about their health insurance, and they lost their doctor, and their rates went up like $6,000 a year, and everything that we were told was a lie. I'm like, well, there's no way that this person can get reelected. Yet they did. And that's when I lost. I'm like, if our elections are that far gone that person can re-win after all of the complaining I've heard for 4 years, especially nobody's got any money and the housing crash and blah, 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 and then get reelected, I said, something's not right. Either this is not being counted properly, or it's all being manipulated. So I gave up on elections in 2012.
I wonder about that too.
And so that's when I started, and I've made it well known that I started my serious semi-professional prepping, which we did that preparedness one back on Labor Day of last year. That happened because of that moment. Something is not on the up and up here. I don't know what. I don't have ESPN and can read people's minds or whatever, but something's not right here. It's out of whack. And that's when I made the turn to start kind of, I don't want to say isolating, because I still engage the public. I'm still out teaching.
Yeah, man.
You and I have been busy a bit more than we have ever been. But when I'm not on duty, I'm out in the woods, man.
You know what I find interesting too is how you just described. You know, it used to be God, individual, society, and when I grew up, it was always love thy neighbor, be neighborly.
Thank you.
You knew everybody knew their neighbors' names. You did things for your neighbors, favor for favor.
Because you're the only one that had fireworks on the 4th of July. They loved you for that.
But you know what I mean? You would always...
You were helping them out, and they were helping you out. That was
the old 1950s, can I borrow a cup of sugar, right? It was, can I borrow your tool? Can I borrow, like, everybody was always helping each other out. And I feel like now the underlying tone, especially from our leaders, is... it's like your neighbor hates you, or your neighbor's against you, or everybody's racist again all of a sudden, and society's falling apart, and it's like, why are we at each other's throats all of a sudden?
And,
and who's driving that? Like, who's driving that? I walk around my neighborhood and I'm just like, everybody seems neighborly to each other. Nobody's like,
they're not.
Everyone waves, but I feel like the tone is trying to get us to stop being like that and stop being neighborly to each other and stop being friendly. And it's like, no, that person's racist. That person doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I think that the government's preference, at least it seems, would be that we are reliant upon them rather than each other, like we used to be.
Sure.
And
that all changed.
The government should be relying upon us.
Right.
That all changed in primarily, I think, under the what's his name, the Great Depression, the Roosevelt, the New Deal, Great Deal, the New Deal.
The New Deal. Yeah.
That's when we really started to usher in a lot of socialist policy.
And being
Social Security truly is a socialist policy.
Absolutely, all of those.
All of these socialist type things actually came in not long after World War I and Wilson with that federal. So this is where we kind of started to get this whole Big Brother is truly, well, I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to say it. Government has now become God.
Taking the place in our...
And I almost threw up a little bit saying that.
Yeah.
But it's true. Well, now we play into this a little bit too, Aaron. We listen to this stuff that comes into our heads telling us that we don't get along and we're not waving at each other. And then what do? We just go retreat behind our privacy fences on our back deck. But when I was a kid, we all sat on the front porch and waved at everybody that came
100%.
by. And you still have that in your community. So the best way to come to peace to what's going on, if you're not satisfying it, is you need to get your world and make it as local as possible. Get out of the macro and get into the local, because what truly counts is your community, your family, maybe even your county, your church, all the local things in your life. You want some peace of mind, keep it local. You want to be driving crazy, start getting worldly.
Start thinking on the
it's funny you say that. I can't think of, I'm picturing my hometown. I can't think of a single privacy fence. Now, you had a fence, but it was chain link to keep the dog in.
Sure.
But I don't
but
think
it was open. You could see through it.
Privacy. Now, safety rules. If you have a pool, you got to have a 6-foot fence. Safety was kind of out the window when we were growing up. There wasn't any safety measures for everything.
Jumping in the neighbor's pool.
But to your point, it's like everybody, you'd leave your car on the sidewalk, on the side of the road, unlocked, windows down.
Yeah.
You didn't have to worry about it.
My grandmother never locked her house out in Hershey, Nebraska. The door was never locked. Even if you went on vacation, somebody might need to get in and get that cup of sugar. So it didn't lock anything. It was, and I don't think that's practical anymore, but I do agree with this think locally, act locally approach. The global thing has not worked for me.
No.
It causes me stress and anxiety. And I start to believe some of the, the messaging that is coming my way. Even subconsciously, we're being constantly bombarded with messaging. and trying to sway it's like that old Roddy Piper movie where he put the glasses on and you can see the aliens. I mean, it's just a constant influx of mind altering
Sure.
information. And
I think it's a double-edged sword.
I try to like, it's like the gym, man. The gym is just a small community of people, friends. You don't have to be best friends. You don't even have to socialize. But when you're inside the doors of the dojo, there is a certain level of respect that's expected. And if it's not given, then the community takes care of it.
It's funny you
Right.
say that, because I always tell my coaches, that as coaches, I tell them, I have to remind them, people come in there to put the world away for a while and just work on themselves and do what they need to do, de-stress, center themselves, build themselves up, whatever happens to be. Like you put the world away for a while.
Yeah.
And so part of the reason I tell them is that I was like, don't bring your shit in the door and then
right. And then lay it on your
students, right? Like, so they're here for a reason. They're here trying to put that away for a while. And I think that's important. I don't think you want to be ignorant to what's going on in the world.
Sure. No, you want to know.
The one thing the internet's done for us, it's allowed us to be more educated, but I think we got dumber at the same time.
Right.
Because, of everything coming in. It's like, it's kind of like this weird dichotomy. Like, we're more educated than we ever have been, but I think we're more ignorant because we've gotten away from these core values and beliefs that Chris has been talking about. Right.
But that's the beauty of let's go full circle right where we started. That's probably the biggest thing that I got out of the military. It solidified core values. And I knew the person next to me had the exact same training and they lived by the same core values. At least while they were on duty, they did. And for me in the Navy, that would be honor, courage, and commitment. I still live by these core values because that's what was issued to me, and they didn't take them back when I got out, so they're still belong to me. Air Force has great. You texted some of them earlier this week, and we had a lot of fun with that over text message, so that was great.
Yeah, well,
thank you for making me laugh.
These guys don't know. We were like, what are we going to talk about? And just being a smart ass, I texted the Air Force core values, and like Chris, like, that's great. I was like, I was just joking, and then off we went, right?
Yeah, then we went off from there.
Yeah.
But I think what really want to do is accountability, and I would say accountability. You can't change who's policing who and you think this person should be locked up because they did something. Hey, that's great. I probably agree with you. But right now, I'm worried about me and my family and my community and those that look to me for various things to provide for them or to words of encouragement.
Whatever.
And so whatever good we're doing in the community, just stick locally, stick to your core values that you were brought up under, be true to yourself, and don't let all those outside influences, which according to the book that I've got at the house called Battlefield America. I recommend this book. I didn't bring it today, but it's called Battlefield America, The War Against the American People. You should read that book. It speaks highly of this police state and surveillance state and a lot of stuff that we're seeing these cameras everywhere. I mean, we picked on London for years about being that kind of city. And then lo and behold, less than 20 years later, we kind of become the same place.
Yeah.
But you want to get wrapped up in all of the things out there that drive you crazy. Well, that's exactly what they want to drive you crazy. So don't live your life in fear. Be content and happy with the privileges and rights that we have as Americans. Put your faith in, I put mine in the Lord, but you put them in where you have confidence and trust, but don't be putting your faith into things that you can't trust because then you're going to get burned. And we could say that about bosses. We could say that about countries. We could say that about, brothers and sisters. Either way, that's just the way I try to do to keep sane in this world. And you said if we get too macro, it starts to stress you out and you get anxious and anxiety. Well, guess what that is? That's just a precursor to other health conditions. So if you're in bad health, you might be sweating the small stuff too much.
Yeah.
And 100%. What small stuff is the macro stuff.
Out of your control.
The big stuff is the things that's in your house, that's in your town, that's in your work, at your work, at your work. Those are the things that directly impact you. Here's a great example before we go. Man, my phone rang off the hook when people are calling me, Chris, they said in Washington that they're going to knock on everybody's door to see if they got this vaccine. And they're all freaking out. I had multiple calls about this. And I said, hey, have they showed up at your door yet? Well, no. Have you seen them in your neighborhood yet? No. Then it's all bull crap. Until it's a reality, it's just words, and that's to create fear in you, and you cannot let them do that to you.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because it will shorten your life, and you won't have the quality of life that you want because you're letting other people influence the way you think. And so be an independent thinker.
Yeah.
Be a maverick. That's why I love UNO. The Mavericks. What's the definition of a maverick? Independent thinker. I don't care what the 8,500 messages that hit my brain every day from the marketing and cell phones and commercials and radio and blah, blah, blah. It's just, we're inundated with people telling us how to think. Throw it all out.
I don't really even watch television anymore. I mean, certainly not news. I don't know. I don't even know where to get information. To some degree, I don't know where to get information because I cannot watch anything that's, telling me that it knows what's best for me on
Let me
TV.
ask one question. I'm going to ask one question here. And I've been asking this question for 5 years in my safety classes. Who in this class can tell me where I can go for truth? Not one person in 5 years has tried to answer that question. Where can I go for truth? Think about that.
Are you talking about other than like the Bible if you are a believer, or are you talking about?
I'm a believer.
Right.
And I know that this is truth. But other than here, no one wants to say this in class, by the way, because they're at work.
That's true.
They don't want to talk about Bible or God at work. Can't do that.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But other than this, where do I go for truth?
I think part of the rub there, Chris, is that the definition of truth has come under fire. Like what even is truth at this point? And I'll go back to everything you said. When I was growing up, I was a cradle Catholic growing up, and one of the big things was God helps those who helps themselves. And to me, that's just accountability and responsibility. And if there's one truth that is that okay, I took everything where I'm at this point is everything I've done, all the decisions I've made or didn't make,
right?
Good or bad.
That is one truth that you can sit there and piss and moan, oh, this and that and this circumstance and that's no, everything is my own doing.
Yeah.
Right. It's my responsibility, my accountability. And I think if more people did that, right, we'd be less stressed.
Yeah.
We'd be better off. We'd know our own personal truth, if nothing else. Right. So when you say, where do you go for truth? I look in the mirror.
That's the reality
that's
of
the
truth.
only truth that is certain, right? Is that, okay, I am where I'm at because everything I've done or didn't do, the decisions I make or didn't make, the stupid money when I blew money on dumb shit, right? That's everything. No one made me do anything, right? And I think that's something that we've gotten away from. It's like, remind yourself, nobody made you do anything. Not in this country. No one made you do anything.
That was a long way to get to accountability.
You could argue about the vaccine, right? We were kind of made to do that. But I guess my point is like when you talk truth, the man in the mirror, Michael Jackson wrote a song about it, right? I think it's a great song, but it is. Look at the person in the mirror, and that's one truth that if you're lying to yourself.
Oh yeah.
You may not admit it, but if you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Did I give it an honest interview? Okay, that was my fault. That was 100% my fault, but I'm not going to admit it.
Right.
I'm going to try to push the blame off, and I think that's a one driving truth.
That's often painful, and people don't want to admit to that. They would rather blame someone else.
As a coach and a trainer, people would always say, "Man, Aaron, that was you're kind of mean." I go, "What?" Because someone goes, "Oh, I gained some weight." I go, "Stop eating shit," right? Well, you don't need to say it like that. But again, it's truth, right? It's like, I didn't make you eat it. I didn't make you do this, or the boss didn't make you show up late, or I didn't make you not study for the exam.
Right.
Like take some accountability. Find your personal truth, and I'm willing to bet that will now start to correct your path.
Yeah.
Really quick.
Yeah.
Really, really quick.
Well, we said that we wanted accountability to be the focus of kind of what we talk about today, and I think you just wrapped it all up right there. That was all about accountability, especially personal accountability. So,
and I think everybody's taking care of their business.
He just did it.
Things are going to improve, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if people are taking care of their business and honestly, truthfully, good and bad, accepting.
So what do you have planned for the 4th, Doug? You asked us last year. We're going to ask you.
Yeah.
You and Chuck and Bourbon in the basement again?
Probably. The 4th is a Tuesday.
Yes.
Right?
Chuck's still around?
Chuck is still around. Dude, I've got 2 dogs now. So not only is Chuck at my house, but my mother's dog, my mother's dog now, she is living in a facility where she's not allowed to have a dog. And so her 15-year-old dog, Gracie,
How do they
is
get
at
along?
my house. Chuck just mopes around like his world has come to an end. And Gracie just loves on him and tries to, mother him and take care of him. He just sulks and goes to the closet,
Yeah.
So not great. Chuck had it great for 10 years.
Yeah.
He was the only.
Now he's second fiddle.
Now he's second fiddling,
Or at least
Gracie.
another fiddle.
Another fiddle,
he's another. Now we have an orchestra. So
Right.
What are you doing, Aaron?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I got Monday off, so I'm probably gonna chill. Everybody's like, "What are you
long
doing your day
weekend.
off?" I'm like, "Catch up on life." I find
Mhm.
myself saying that a lot. Catch up
Yeah.
on life.
Yeah.
I get so busy doing things. I'm kind of in a big transition right now. I didn't renew my contract at UNO, so I'm not teaching anymore.
Okay.
Wednesday was my last day.
was it?
Well,
and
congratulations
good
on a
for
good
you,
run
man.
there, though.
yeah,
Great
it,
run there.
it was one of people ask why you leave. I'm like, well, we just couldn't agree on a contract. We'll just leave it at that.
There you go.
And then I'm actually, this is my mandatory retirement year for the military.
Oh,
So I've actually fulfilled my fiscal year requirement, so I could pull the plug
Wow.
now if I
like
wanted
terminal
to.
leave. Just take terminal leave.
I don't even have that as a
No.
reservist. I don't even have that.
Oh,
It's
sure.
just I'm done, or
You're done.
I can do another year potentially if I want to. So I've got that retirement counseling appointment coming up to decide
Oh,
if I
good
want
for
Good
to.
you,
luck
man.
with it.
So I'm kind of in this
Yeah.
transition
Yeah.
phase right now. What we're doing
But
the kids and I are going on vacation on Friday for a week.
Oh, there you
Nice.
So we're probably laying low this week
Yeah.
with the
Mhm.
4th. We'll do some fireworks, but we're going on vacation next Friday. I meet my brother and some friends. We rent a house on the beach and just chill for a
Oh.
week.
Nice.
That'd be
we
great.
all pitch in. All the families show up, so it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
for
that's
you.
great. You get to get away
Well,
from
man-
everything we just talked about.
Yeah.
Go
But
to
I
the
mean,
beach,
you
man.
are
Let it go.
you're walking through the door right now. I mean, if all of those things are changing, no
Yeah, I'm
longer
closing a
to-
few doors at the moment.
closing a few,
Yeah, it's crazy.
but always doors are always opening, man.
There are, and I
There's
tell
something
myself,
exciting is
people are like,
gonna
"What are you
be.
gonna do?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'll figure it out."
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in my life, I'm like, technically at this moment, I'm unemployed, right? It's like
That feels weird, don't
it does. It's like,
It
what am
feels
I gonna
weird.
do?
As a self-employed guy,
Yeah.
you are unemployed. I
Yeah.
totally get it.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, great.
How about you?
Man, I've been so busy lately. Doug can tell you, I've just been grinding it out. I went on an 8-week run, just grinding it out all week long.
work.
And so I got 2 weeks off. This was the first week. And so
Good for
next
you.
week, I got a lot of catching up. And then we're hitting the road to go do some more
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
We're going to get underway and travel over to
Yeah, we got some
closer to where
travel.
you're from and do some training over there. And so I'm going to be on the road. So I'm actually just going to unwind and
That's
just
nice.
enjoy a quiet day.
What does unwinding look like?
Unwinding for me is not going out and
Working.
pulling weeds in the garden
Mhm.
and trying to keep up with all my preps. I'm just going to take that day off
Mhm.
and enjoy the Boston Pops on TV
Yeah.
that night and the orchestra and the
Nice.
fireworks. But I'm not going anywhere. And last year we did the lake, but this year I just want to stay home because I've been gone so much.
Yeah,
But so
you've been gone
just a
a
little
lot.
bit of me time to reflect
good,
on the
man.
beauty of this country
What's
and
funny?
the fact that we live in it.
I like
Yeah.
it. It's
I
weird.
agree.
It's fun. Sometimes it's just fun not to have to. I've been shopping campers lately because
Ooh.
and people are like, why do you can't? I got look. I just want to go someplace and shut the world off for a couple
Mhm.
days.
Mhm.
It's a good way to
and
do it.
just be off
Can
the
you
grid.
rent? Can you rent a camper?
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you
I
can
think that would be a
VRBO
good
anything
start.
at this
I
point.
think there's that rent RV or camp RV site because my wife and I have talked about that, getting some kind of even like a van type situation where we can drive somewhere, go to the. We were out in Colorado last week visiting one of my sons and had a great time. And we're like, wouldn't it be nice to just be able to pick up, drive somewhere, get off the grid a little bit, relax.
Yeah.
Not too many people.
I hope you get it. The most memorable vacation, my boys, when I asked the boys of all the places that you got to go, because dad was out here working and they would fly out to Hawaii or Paris or London. My boys have been a lot of places. And I said, what's your favorite vacation? And they were like, when we lived in the RV at Yellowstone for 2 weeks.
Really.
Better than Disney, better than Europe, better than
How old were they
Mexico.
at the time?
Oh, probably 11 and 12.
Nice.
They loved it. It was
Well, that's
just,
in your wheelhouse, man.
Yeah. They loved it.
That's
And so
cool.
that's the vacation they talk about the most, the RV time at Yellowstone.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I hope you get it, man.
Awesome.
It's some memories that's going to happen there that no
Yeah.
one could ever take from
That's
you.
right. And
they'll always be
I
yours.
might have to pull the trigger on it.
and this
I
country
just
is
talked him into it.
this country is so beautiful though too, man. If you
Yeah.
take the time to see it
Yeah.
instead of just putting your head down and barreling down Interstate 80 or something, if you actually take the time to get off that interstate
Yeah.
and see those small towns and communities, I personally love that. I find that very enjoyable.
I hope y'all have a great
I like
Fourth, man.
Yeah, you
It's
too,
just be
buddy.
quiet for me.
You too, fellas. I appreciate you. You know I love you, and I appreciate your coming on and spending the 4th of July episode with me. We'll do this again next year. We'll catch up on that RV transition.
See where
Yeah,
I'm
we
at.
want to hear all about that.
Hopefully we don't burn ourselves out
Oh.
humping these other gigs, but I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday. Spend time with friends and family. Appreciate what you've got, and think about what we discussed today. This accountability piece is such an important part. So,
Service too.
Yeah.
Service to
yes,
each other.
and service. Yes, thank you.
And
Service to each other.
remember why you're shooting off those fireworks.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Thank you, Cam. Sorry
you,
for
Cam.
sticking around late, buddy. Just put it on my bill.
Cam's 4 in the happy hour right now, so he's
That's
good.
right. Exactly, man. Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoy your holiday.
Happy Fourth.
Talk to you
everybody.
later. Bye-bye.